I'm running to the store because apparently we desperately need pure vanilla extract for a couple of different recipes. It's family night and we're getting ready to have a Christmas decoration celebration, and it definitely causes me to remember a lot of different Christmas memories, a lot of different holiday memories. You know, growing up, we did a lot of Santa Claus stuff, you know. There was one particular Christmas where, well, every year my family growing up went to midnight mass at Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Webb City. And we would go to midnight mass, and it's kind of crazy to think that my parents got all five of us as little kids ready, and we went to about a 90-minute mass on at midnight on Christmas Eve, Christmas morning. And so one particular year, I had started thinking about Santa Claus, and I was starting to realize that Santa Claus wasn't real, and that maybe it was my parents who did all the gifts and everything like that. I was just confident that right before we went to midnight mass, when everybody was just in the car waiting for my mom, she would make excuses for why she was running late, and then she would put out all the gifts while we were sitting in the car. And then when we came home from midnight mass, all the gifts would be in the in the living room, and we would all get to enjoy. And imagine that while we were in midnight mass, Santa Claus had come. So I decided that I was gonna prove that Santa Claus wasn't real, and just wait for my mom to come out. And I'm looking for vanilla extract here. Wait for my mom to come out to the car. We're all in the car, and I said, I gotta go to the bathroom. So without even getting permission, I just ran in, and I was gonna prove that my mom had just put out all the presents. But there was nothing there. And so I was the last one to leave the house. And then we went off to church. Then when we came home, the living room was full of gifts. And so to this day, I'm not quite sure. Santa Claus isn't real. No, I'm not quite sure how my mom and dad did that. But I suspect that perhaps during midnight mass, my mom went to the restroom supposedly or whatever, and then went to, just drove home and put out all the gifts and just tricked us all. That's my suspicion anyway, after all these years. So let's see, pure vanilla extract. Wow, it's expensive. $8.99. Maybe I should get the biggest bottle so that we don't run out. The other thing is that I use vanilla extract for Aunt Rose's peanut butter oatmeal no-bake cookies, which is a bit of a family tradition. So Aunt Rose refers to Aunt Rose Birkenbaugh. Aunt Rose Birkenbaugh was my grandmother's sister, and she was, if I remember the story correctly, she was unmarried until she was in her 40s, and then she was Rose Worth until that time, and she married some guy, Frank Birkenbaugh, and I don't remember him well, but I have a lot of memories of Aunt Rose, especially her cookies. Although it's kind of funny because she developed diabetes. She was a tiny lady, but very heavy. And then at some point, maybe I was old enough to notice, so maybe around 1980 or so, she lost all the weight. She became very thin and subsequently destroyed all pictures of herself previous to that. No, I'm making that up. I don't know if that's true. I just can't find any. But she was famous for her peanut butter oatmeal no-bake cookies, and I was her biggest fan of those cookies, and I was apparently quite the pest and bugged my mom a lot. Grandma, my mom, Marjorie Louise Matlock, bugged her all the time to make those cookies for me. And then finally, when I was young, 10 or 12, I think, she taught me how to make them myself. And I can't imagine that she let me make them every time I wanted them, but when the pestering got too much, then she would just say, go make them yourself. So I can't even really remember not knowing how to make peanut butter oatmeal no-bake cookies. Aunt Rose's recipe. That's why I was talking about Aunt Rose. I'm rambling here. But Aunt Rose, it was Aunt Rose's recipe. And my mom, I don't know, at some point picked up the recipe, and in fact she later submitted it to a recipe book that her church put together and labeled them Aunt Rose's peanut butter oatmeal no-bake cookies, or Aunt Rose's peanut butter cookies, or something like that. So it's a fond memory for family night tonight, and it seems like it seems like it's become more of a Christmas thing because, I basically, since we moved to Kansas 20 years ago, 20 years ago this year, I've put on a little weight, sadly. And so I really try not to make these too often because they have 2 cups of sugar in them. So every time I make these cookies, I think about Aunt Rose, and then I think about my mom, and then I think about how I'm passing the baton on to my kids. At least a few of my kids have learned over the years to make these cookies as I have made them and taught them. So isn't that kind of funny how food can become, not just food, but kind of traditions and kind of hold special meanings. I guess there's probably some sort of profound lesson in all of this. Maybe a connection for why Jesus instructed us to celebrate the Lord's Supper. Because there's something about meals and food that can help build relationships, with family and friends and churches. But I'm not going to get too deep tonight. I'm just going to go make those cookies. Well, the tree is standing. It's not yet decorated with lights, but the tree is standing. So I was actually wrong. My mom didn't put it in a recipe book. It was my sister's church, Sister Mary's church, did a recipe book where everybody contributed recipes, and you can see there my sister Mary contributed Aunt Rose's peanut butter cookies, and so it's a good opportunity for a screen capture there. But that's a great way to remember Aunt Rose and her recipe. But also that includes a way to make them chocolate, which I'm not going to right now. But anyway, I can, as I've indicated, I can do this from memory. This is my eggnog. That's not part of the story. But we have 6 ingredients here, basically. Start out with milk, half cup of milk, a stick of butter, 2 cups of sugar, a smidge of pure vanilla. Okay, so you start by putting all of that into a pan. After it's cooked, you add quick oats. Very key that they're quick oats, and then peanut butter. So half cup of peanut butter and about 3 cups of oats. Half a cup of milk. 2 cups of sugar. 1 stick or 8 tablespoons of butter. And a splash. Okay, so then you put this to heat. And of course you want to stir it well so it doesn't stick or burn to the bottom. So while that's heating up, we'll come over here and measure out our oatmeal and peanut butter. A heaping half cup of peanut butter. You don't want to be chintzy on your peanut butter. Be sure to keep stirring this on the stove. And then of course we'll do 3 cups of quick oats. So you can see the butter is nearly melted. So right after it's totally melted, shortly after it's totally melted, it'll start boiling. And that's important, very important. So that's pretty much a boil. So we'll start a timer now. Alexa, start a timer for 1 minute. And so it's very important that you keep stirring the bottom the whole time, or else you'll burn part of it, and that can affect the taste of all the cookies. So this 1 minute of boiling is the key to the whole recipe. Okay, that's our timer. Alexa, stop. So you remove it from the heat immediately. So then you want to add the peanut butter by itself first, because going into the very hot solution will help it melt nice and creamy. So you see that's a nice creamy peanut butter solution. 1, 2 cups to start with. You're not done. You eventually want to add 3, if not 3 1/4 or so, but it's easier to stir in 1 or 2 cups at a time. Here's our 3rd heaping cup. Stir it in till every oatmeal flake is covered with the peanut butter solution. Smells so good. Then you're gonna get some wax paper. Then I'm gonna take not a large spoonful. I like to make them kind of small. You just use 1 spoon to dip out a cookie, and then another to wipe it off the other spoon. All right, so I got about 66 cookies that time, and just a couple of rules. One is that you want to eat by the time you dip out all of the cookies, the first one is ready to eat. So whoever does all the work gets to eat the first cookie, and gets to scrape out the bowl, the pan, and eat whatever is left in the pan as well. All right, cookies are ready if anybody wants one.